Hello, everybody. Welcome to Take the Black Live, the one and only show on the internet where myself, Dan Selcke of winnerscoming.net, and Daniel Rowan, hey, Daniel Rowan, of winnerscoming.net, talk about all things sci-fi, fantasy, space, lasers, robots, swords, dragons, horses, and such things as this. Daniel, who's your friend?
Uh, this is this is a bear. I don't know their name. We're not that good of friends, but
Gotcha.
they're going to help me co-host today because I'm at the library. And how are you, Dan? How are all of you out there?
Not bad at all. And hello, Martha. Hello, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. Andrew can't watch live right now. I'm happy to say hi. Hey, Andrew. Whenever you want to watch, time
Hey,
with us.
Andrew.
Because as you know, we're on podcast. We're a live show. We're able so many places. So like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And without further ado, let's launch into some of the fantastic, scintillating, exciting news we have on tap to talk about today. Hello, Pablo. Hello, Nicole. Good to see everybody in the room. We got some good stuff. Daniel, we're kind of riding high right now. We got the Wheel of Time is
We are.
firing on all cylinders over on Amazon Prime Video, and we have an exclusive clip to share with you lucky people a little bit later. But first, I figured we would start, as
Yes.
we often do, in the Seven Kingdoms, in Westeros, in the land to the west of Essos, where they are currently filming, I think, the last week of the second season of House of the Dragon. It's almost over, and just in time, because the writer's strike just ended, so now they can do reshoots and stuff, which is great. But we're still hearing casting news, and we just heard from, oh dear, it wasn't Redanian intelligence. The rumor going around town, around the internet, is that we finally have an actor who is playing Cregan Stark, who is a really important character in House of the Dragon, the young Lord of Winterfell at the time of this story. And word is that he will be played by 22-year-old British actor Tom Taylor, seen here in black and white, looking like a Lannister. Have any thoughts about that, Dana Roman? Hmm. Daniel Roman may have frozen. Okay. Basically, so we heard that this Tom Taylor guy
Oh, I think I just caught up.
from House of the Dragons. Did you hear the bit about? Did you hear the bit about
Yes.
Tom Taylor being cast as Cregan
Can
Stark in
you
House of
hear
the Dragons
me?
season 2? Yes, I can. Can you hear me? Anywho, um, how about you just reset, Daniel, and I'll talk
Yes.
for a bit. Basically, everybody out there, we got Tom
Sounds
Taylor as
good.
Cregan Stark, really important character, the Lord of Winterfell at the time of House of the Dragon. Uh, Everyone likes the Starks. We all want to meet them. They're cold, they're severe, they have dark hair, and we are going to meet them in season 2 when I think Jacaerys Valerian goes up there to Winterfell to try and win him over to his mom Rhaenyra's side. And minor spoiler alert for Fire and Blood, but he does, and they become buddies. And it's good to finally put a face because it's an important character, but we haven't seen any indication of who's going to play him. It's good to finally have a face. He looks like a Lannister in this picture, but wigs do wonders. And as Philip Plus, you're right. He actually has a pretty good resume for someone so young. He was in The Dark Tower, like I said, Philip, with Matthew McConaughey and Idris Elba, the 2017 adaptation of the Stephen King book, The Dark Tower, which I think like 8 people saw total. But Tom Taylor was the main guy, and he would have been like, I mean, like 15 or so when that movie was filmed. So he's got in this at a young age. He was also, for all the Last Kingdom stands in the audience, he was also young Kid Uhtred of Bebemba in the very first episode of The Last Kingdom on Netflix. So he's got some miles on him, this Tom Taylor guy. It's cool. We won't know more until we actually see, you know, him in costume on set, given lines. But as far as Starks of the prior generation go, Hopefully he'll be a worthy addition to the Hall of Fame that now includes, Rob and Arya and Sansa and Bran and maybe John a little bit, half and half if you're into that kind of thing. So yeah, Tom Taylor, wish him the best. If Daniel were here right now, I bet he would agree thoroughly with me and say that anybody who disagrees with me is a heretic. But of course, you're free to disagree with me. If you have any opinions on Tom Taylor, House of the Dragon, or any of this, feel free to hit us up. That's about all we have for Westeros this week. Pretty light, but it's good to have that big role filled. A lot has happened in the past week in terms of the news in Hollywood in general. And I'd like to shift, if I could, just for a minute, into Wick Does Business, a new daily segment where we offer our opinions on all things industry. Because there's some cool stuff going on. I'm sure we all heard that the Hollywood writers' strike, after, God, how many months was it? June, July, August, September. After like 4 months, wrapped up. The Hollywood writers signed a deal with the big Hollywood studios. They got pretty much everything they wanted. But before we talk about that, did you guys hear that George R.R. Martin, author of Song of Ice and Fire and Fire and Blood, is suing OpenAI, the makers of ChatGPT, the folks on the vanguard of this AI revolution, alongside big authors like John Grisham and some other authors. The authors have gotten together and they have sued OpenAI, alleging mass copyright infringement because of these generative AI programs like ChatGPT, where you can type in ChatGPT, write me a sequel, like write The Winds of Winter, write a version of The Winds of Winter. And because it knows everything that's happened in the first 5 Song of Ice and Fire books so well, it can do that. And what George R.R. Martin and these other authors are now saying is, you obviously crawled my books online. They're accusing them of getting them from like some black market book depository online. And you did that without my permission. You did that without paying me. So you, ChatGPT, OpenAI, are in violation of copyright law. And we want justice. We want to be redressed, want to be remunerated. We want remedies. And there's been a lot of talk ever since the AI boom really caught hold early this year about what are the limits of this exactly? What can it do? What can't it do? What should it be allowed to do? And this case filed by George R.R. Martin and other authors like John Grisham and also others, I don't know their names, so I'm just going to say those two, is a good
safe bet.
I mean, there are others though. There's plenty. I'm sorry I don't know your name.
There are a lot.
Yes, and there's like 15. So now they're going to try to force courts to draw some lines. Daniel, what do you think about this? Why are the authors, why are they so bigoted against robots?
Well, they're not. They're bigoted against companies stealing their... Well, it's important to note, this is not robots. This is not an actual artificial intelligence. This is basically a program that eats words and then spits them out in a different order. Mm-hmm. That's not, it's not like iRobot is off writing books somewhere. This is really just a kind of a similar tool to, Grammarly, autocorrect, those types of tools. The main issue with this, so the Authors Guild, which represents writers like George R. Martin, a whole bunch, everyone's got a guild. The Authors Guild is not really as widespread of a thing as something like the WGA, but they're putting their foot down for this. And it's important. So things like this are important because a related story, so this is different than the ChatGPT thing, but it is causing a lot of waves this week, is that I think the Atlantic, they published a study they had done which revealed the 183,000 books that Meta had used to train their AI. And you can search what books they used, and it's like, 40 Sanderson books, all of the Wheel of time, a ton of George R. R. Martin. It's an enormous list. And the issue is that these companies didn't get permission to use these books. That's really at the heart of it. It's not AI is bad, this or that. It's companies making a grab for intellectual property that doesn't belong to them in order to train a tool that they are going to then use for profit. And that is the issue. If they had sought out consent from publishers, we wouldn't be having this conversation. The whole point is they took it without any sort of consent. So yeah, this is the tip of the iceberg with this. I think we're going to be hearing a lot more about this soon, especially with stuff like the WGA, winning AI protections in their strike, which I don't know if we have talked about that.
Not really. We'll get into it. I mean, I have two quick questions for you. First of all, Meta uses AI in Facebook. What do they use? And B, the much more serious question is, if we don't give the generative AI programs everything we've ever written, how will it learn how to be our benevolent leader? I mean, he's stunned speechless, folks. It's not what's happening, but that's what I choose to think. I imagine that this is going to be one of those days where we have some technical difficulties, but that's one of the things that just makes this so charming. I'll answer for him. I don't know that Meta was using AI. I'd never heard of that. I'm sure they are in some way. And the second question was a troll question, and I wish I could have seen this response. It was going to be hilarious. But yeah, let's talk about the other AI stuff, because in addition to George R. R. Martin and fellow,
I think
back with us. No. In addition to George R. R. Martin and other authors trying to get courts to draw lines around AI, the WGA, the Writers Guild, all the writers in Hollywood, part of the reason they were able to end their strike is because studios caved and gave them protections against AI, basically. I am not going to be able to kind of pop off all the details from the top of my head, but basically the agreement between the Hollywood writers and the Hollywood studios is that AI cannot rewrite their work. Which is funny. And again, I'm sorry, everyone, for the technical difficulties. It happens.
Yeah,
I blame
the bear.
Are you okay?
I'm okay.
Things, Daniel?
I still have all my limbs in life. So the bear, while it might be gnawing on cables, is not getting me too bad. Yeah. So what were you saying about the Writers Guild AI? They won protections for this. And obviously you can't rattle off everything because it's like 90 pages of deal that they got.
Basically, AI can't rewrite their material. AI can't be credited, more or less, as like a writer. A writer can use AI when writing a script, but they can't be compelled to. And that's just one of the many things they won. They kind of won everything, Daniel. Like,
they really did.
They won AI protections. They won pay increases, obviously, like flat pay as well as increased residuals. So now if a Netflix show does really well, they'll get a bonus, basically. They won more like health plan and pension plan
Yes,
contributions. They won requirements on like the length of employment that they had to be employed for a certain amount of time that isn't, just not crazy short. On the size of writers' rooms. So they have to hire a certain number of writers, which is the only thing I kind of have a bit of a problem with, frankly. Basically, Hollywood caved completely. These writers, these pencil-wristed, glasses-wearing dweebs, like, managed to get these big studios to give them everything. How do they do that?
Well, because the studios can't make anything without them. What are they going to do? It's kind of like, when the headlines started going around about the AMPTP, which is the studios, made their best and last and final offer. The joke was, well, what are you going to do if they don't accept it? You're not just going to not make shows and movies anymore. So really, the actors and the writers being on strike hold they held all the cards in this situation. And that's not to say there weren't compromises. So the room size one is interesting. Originally, the WGA was asking for larger room sizes. So they kind of met in the middle. They were originally saying 6 writers. Then they changed it to 3 writer producers, which writer producers gives them a little more rights about, I believe, going to set and things like that, and more involvement. So that's a big thing. A lot of these wins are kind of oriented around safeguarding screenwriting as a career. So like the mini rooms, which are something we heard a lot about from people like George R. R. Martin and Neil Gaiman. Basically what that was studios like Netflix would have writers come in for like a weekend or a week and break an entire season of television, and then they would lay them off, or they would fire them. They didn't even lay them off. They would just say, you were a gig worker for a week. Now if we go through with it, we'll hire different people and maybe we'll make a show. So they won. They did away with that. So now writers, when they're in pre-greenlight rooms, they spanked them on that. They're guaranteed 10 weeks for a pre-greenlight room. So no more come break a show in a weekend. And if the show goes to order, if it gets greenlit, then the studio can't fire those writers from the pre-greenlight room and get different ones. They are guaranteed to be able to come over, is my understanding, into the actual writing room, which then lasts X amount of other weeks. So it's a lot of stuff. Another huge one I saw a lot of people talking about last night is the fact that, so writing teams, so like, say like you have a writing partner, like David Benioff and Dan Weiss. Yeah. Writing teams, it used to be that they would get contributions to their health and pension like split. So as if the team was one person. And now they have made it so that the team, each individual gets health and pension contributions, which is like,
I think that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Right. Like, oh, you are two humans.
It's not like him and Benioff and Dan Weiss like live in bunk beds in the same dormitory together. Yeah. And shared all the organs.
Had their way, if studios had their way, they'd keep them in a bunk bed and they'd just be chained to the desk. But yeah, so you're right. They did. I was shocked because there were things that I didn't even realize, not that they were asking for, but there were wins on there that hadn't even really been talked about, like that health insurance one. So yeah, the writers really came through, I think, for their guilds.
Complete triumph. Yeah.
Complete triumph. Another one is that staff writers will get a script writing fee when they write episodes. So basically a script fee is a very large fee that you get when you turn in a script. And studios had to work around for that, where when they hired them on as staff writers, they weren't technically getting script fees. They were getting whatever salary or something like that, but it was much less than they would have made if they were getting the script fee. So they're kind of closing all these loopholes for how studios have been cutting financial corners. I think it's a lot of good stuff. Well, I'm curious to see how it shakes out for SAG-AFTRA in the coming weeks.
The actors are still on strike, to answer Nicole's question. The actors are still on strike. There are some nuances I wouldn't mind hitting up with you. Like Philip has a question that I've wondered about. So Philip Plus, which is now $9.99 if you act now through the end of October.
That's right.
He asks, what about shows where the showrunner writes every episode like Downton Abbey? Are they required to have additional writers? And you might know this, because what I heard was that there are like minimum staffing requirements for rooms, except in the case of if one person writes every episode. So I think a person like Downton Abbey, Julian Fellows, I believe, writes that, could write everything. My question is, though, is there enough between like 1 and 6? Like, what if it is like a team, like a David Benioff and Dan Weiss, like write every episode or something? Like, would that count as one person writing, or they have to go up to 6? Like, if something in between this, like Game of Thrones had like 4 people writing stuff. More or less.
Game of Thrones had a lot more people than that, I think, throughout its
in the
run.
writer's room. I mean, throughout the entire run, but that's not what they're talking about. Like, they mean like on a season of TV, you got to have like 6, or at least I have not read the full 94-page splash document. You may have. But like in most seasons of Game of Thrones, after the first couple, it was David Benioff, Dan Weiss, who wrote as a team, Dave Hill, and Brian Cogman, and that was it. So I don't know if that would have like passed muster under this agreement. Blink 18 times if you are in another time hole. I'm going to guess in another time hole. So in the absence of Daniel being able to weigh in on this, I'm going to say it's a huge concern. I am right to be afraid of it. We should all be afraid. The strike is worthless. We have to reverse everything. Hollywood studios should crush writers under the steel boot of capitalism.
Yeah.
And Daniel, if you agree, say nothing.
I can't tell if I'm frozen or not, but yes, confound you, bear.
Why don't you take another break? Okay. You know what? He did say something, folks. So I guess he doesn't agree with me. But yeah, one thing I heard about how the writers were able to get this giant deal when they wouldn't have otherwise is because the actors were on strike at the same time. Had the writers only gone on strike, maybe the studios could have waited them out, could have, I don't know, used some other techniques to try and get them to default on their rent and their mortgages and not had to give up quite as much. But when the actors and the writers are on strike, and absolutely nothing can happen except for very limited circumstances, they really had no choice but to just get bent over a barrel and, you know, accept what happens in their life. Yeah, Martha, I agree. That library needs something. They do great when this is a crazy
episode. That's fair. What
are you laughing at?
I'm laughing at Martha. I'm laughing at Martha. I've heard all of it. No, I've heard a bit, but I'm laughing at Martha. Yes, they need aluminum foil on their Wi-Fi. I don't know, Martha. I don't know what gives. But yeah.
Okay. Quick, what's the deal with the staffing requirements? Do you know? Like, could you have like 3 writers in a room if that's all you need? Because I think if that's all you need, it's all you should have. I really do think that.
It's up to a certain amount of episodes. So that is the whole thing, is that studios were pressuring writers' rooms to hire less writers. So that is why they wanted these
You know what? This might have to remain a mystery, everybody. Maybe I should just go solo this episode. Are you all hearing this? This is crazy. Okay, Daniel is currently turned. Okay, everybody. Hi, I'm Dan Selcke, the host of Take the Black Live. I'm also Daniel Roman, the other host of Take the Black Live. We talk about fantasy, swords, dragons, horses, all that good stuff. And I'm the only host. I've always been the only host. And if you remember a guy named Daniel Roman who had a ponytail, glasses, and worked at a library, it was false. It was a false memory. It never happened. I'm here, and I'm enough. I'm Knuff. I'm going to have to be. So the strike, I feel like we talked about it enough. Thank you for rolling with us today. It's been an interesting show, obviously. Thanks for putting up with us. Daniel, I will say one thing about Daniel before we move on. As I'm fond of saying, whenever this happened, he lives basically at the back of a very dense cave system in a mountain range, and he has what's called a reverse well for water. He doesn't have electricity, and sometimes it's hard to get online, but he does his best. And thanks, Daniel, and we'll see him next week. Okay, let's move on from all of this. Thank you all for your well wishes. I agree. The bear has taken over. Oh God, I hope that bear didn't do anything terrible to him. I have a treat for you. Someone mentioned the Wheel of Time. I think it was so talk about how good the Wheel of Time was this week. It was an excellent episode We're looking forward to the next one. I feel like the Wheel of Time has really caught on this season in a way it hasn't last season. I don't know how many of you out there have read the Wheel of Time books by Robert Jordan, but I'm in the middle of them. The fans seem to be liking this season. The people who haven't read the books seem to be liking this season. I'm enjoying this season. And we have an exclusive new clip from this Friday's new episode of Wheel of Time that we'd like to play for you. Is that something that we can do in the immediate future? Producer Richard, who I know is handling 30,000 things at once right now. Nice. Fantasy fan is a fan of it, as is Patrick. Okay, here we go. This is Matt Cauthon, who, played by Dónal Finn, who, like all of us, I think, wakes up in a strange environment next to a strange pot of tea and decides, what's the worst that could happen if I drink it? Can we roll the tape? There he goes. I mean, that's what I would do, right? In a well-apportioned room. Beautiful. Just drink it, see what happens. Dónal Finn, by the way, is the second actor to play Matt Cauthon. First was Barney Harris, and I don't want to be mean. But I feel like Dónal Finn is emoting more as Matt Cauthon. I feel like I'm more invested and more interested when I see him act than I was Barney Harris. Good an actor as he is, I think Dónal Finn is really proving himself a good addition to this cast. You drink some strange tea, you have some strange visions. It's happened to all of us. If Daniel were here, he'd be able to tell you the particulars of the book series this is all referencing. I'm less sure. He's seen a vision of his shrewdish, cruel, ashamed mother, which again, you drink some LSD tea, you see beautiful hours that you can't stand what happens. Going for some full horror imagery. I saw this episode in advance, I've seen it, and I don't know what he's seen, but I find it very creepy. I find Donaldson's acting very strong, especially when he's kind of freaking out and smiling in a rictus grimace. I think he's very good.
Just like him.
Creepy. Robin will return next week. I like that clip goes fairly hardcore on, I don't know, the disturbing aspects of this. The Wheel of Time has been really good so far. It's this series that has like a wide pendulum of it's kind of like more optimistic than a Game of Thrones, say, in terms of the characters are a bit more archetypal and a bit more like pure good versus pure evil. But it can also get pretty deep in the weeds creepy. And I think Dónal Finn is a good actor you want on your side if you want to get deep in the weeds creepy. The bit where he's like grimacing with his rictus smile taking up like 2/3 of his face, very creepy. I agree, Daniel Roman. Glad to see you. Hope you're doing well. Disturbing, very disturbing. And that episode airs Friday. Although I believe if you're in the US, it drops a little early in the evening. It's just been a great season so far. This show is going places. And I, for one, am looking forward to seeing where it goes. Is it a watch? I'm doing better than Matt, Daniel says. I'm glad. The bear didn't hurt you, did it? I believe Nicole was concerned the bear took over, and I was a little concerned too. This never happened before that bear got there. Just saying. You know, without a co-host, I think we can move a little quicker through this episode. And that's nothing to say. But if you got anything you want to say about the Wheel of Time, feel free to sound off. I'd love to talk to you guys. But let's go on to, yeah, I agree, Fantasy Fan. Rafe Judkins Rafe Judkins knocking it out of the park this season in a way that is pleasing so many more people than season 1 did, which is just impressive. Everyone out there, what are you watching when you're not watching Take the Black Live every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central on the Women's Community channel and Facebook channel? Any other TV shows you're watching, movies you've seen, books you're reading? I know that I'm watching The Wheel of Time, loving it. I'm watching Ahsoka on Disney Plus, and I'm finding that fine. I feel like where The Wheel of Time has caught on with a lot of people and made them excited in a big way, Ahsoka is a little less catching. Philip, too, plus you're watching it. Are you enjoying Ahsoka, or are you more like me, where I'm liking it, but I'm not being incredibly moved by it? Pablo, I've heard Pablo Prompero is saying that he's watching Foundation season 2, which apparently is amazing. That one has gone almost completely under the radar, which kind of sucks if it's as amazing as folks are saying, because I've heard from more than one person that it's really ramped up and gotten great. And it's too bad if that show is kind of making a very muted footfall in the discourse, because almost nobody talks about it. It's not bad, raves Daniel Roman of Chicago Sentinel. Good. I haven't been able to fit it in. One thing, there are so many shows. Daniel's not here, but I wanted to bring up that one thing that I've heard people say about the aftermath of the strike, the writer's strike, is that if they're going to pay writers so much more, and actors eventually pay them more once they cut a deal with them, is that we could have fewer shows in general, because there won't be enough money to go around. Now, I think that's sort of ignoring the problem of exorbitant CEO pay, but I could kind of see maybe an advantage to a few fewer shows on TV. I can't watch all of these things. Like, there could be some things that fall by the wayside, although I'm guessing a series like Foundation might not have gotten made if they have to be more conservative with their money. And it seems like you guys are enjoying it. Like, fantasy fans like it, Daniel likes it, Valerie likes it, and Philip is enjoying Ahsoka more than you expected, especially after Obi-Wan, which I did not watch. I'm liking it too, Philip, but I'm far short of loving it. Yes, Foundation is renewed. Apple TV Plus has deep pockets. When you're Apple, you can pay for anything. As Nicole says, Loki on the way. I think it's in next week or the week after it. Loki is definitely going up. I'll look forward to that. And Fantasy Fan is enjoying Ahsoka. I'm glad. I'm also watching The Winter King on MGM Plus, but we don't need to talk about that. It's adaptation of books I like, but it's weak. I don't know. Daniel is saying that he thinks Foundation will stick around. I never hear about it. I never hear about anybody watching Foundation except for you guys right now, which I'm happy about. But I hear so little buzz about that show, and it looks so expensive. I have a hard time believing that there's enough support to sustain it because I'm not into math, says Daniel. Oh, because you're so into math. I like math. I can do long division if I have a calculator, which I do, because we all do, because we have phones in our pockets. And the first season was kind of lame. But yeah, plenty to go around. For all the strike stuff, there's no shortage of TV. Yeah, The Walking Dead is on. The Daryl Dixon Show, people are enjoying that. We got The Boys coming up, the spinoff. Later this week, we got Daniel's got about the Castlevania show. Tons to watch. And now the writer's strike is back on. They can start making tons more. And maybe if they have to pay writers and actors more, they'll make a few less shows, and we can all, I don't know, talk to our families for two nights a week or something. Is that where the boy math meme came from? Okay. I agree with you, Nicole. I wasn't super duper into Foundation either. Damn, you guys are commenting off the hook. And as Nicole says, Kim Kardashian, surprisingly good American Horror Story. I have not watched American Horror Story for years, but perhaps I'll cross the line for Kim K, because she's a goddess on earth. I think we all agree on that. As Patrick says, the difference between the culture reach of Netflix and Disney for us versus the other streamers is significant, which is true. But I mean, like on Apple TV Plus, Ted Lasso wasn't Apple TV Plus. You heard about that show. You heard about it. You heard about Ted Lasso on Apple TV Plus. You don't hear about Foundation. And I think that's a problem. But if you have money like them, maybe not as much of a problem as it could be otherwise. Yeah, I agree, Daniel Roman, longtime viewer, first-time commenter. I agree that if this leads to a bit more judicious use of funds, it could be a good thing. All right, thanks for the comments, guys. You guys are really bringing it. In the absence of co-host who will return next week, I appreciate you guys stepping up and giving me things to talk about. I love talking to you guys. Let's move on and talk through a new edition of the WiC News Lightning Round to end out this, I'm going to call it special episode of Take the Black. In the WiC News Lightning Round, we go through stories that we couldn't hit during the main body of the show and give our, which I mean my, 20-second opinions. And Valerie, I really liked One Piece too, so I'm all about it. This week, I believe producer Richard will be feeding me these prompts, and I will give you my thoughts on every single one of them.
That is indeed correct.
Richard, are
Hello,
you ready?
I am here, and hopefully everyone can see me too. Let's do this. You ready?
Producer Richard.
20 seconds on the clock. As always, let me just make sure I have the buzzer ready because I am not used to being on camera and reading these off and doing everything else. But just one moment here. Give me a little second. All right, we are set. Dan, let us begin. Sophie Turner, Sansa Stark,
Hit it.
sues Joe Jonas to allow their kids to return to England. What do you think about that?
Celebrity romance gone wrong. Sophie Turner, noted actor. Joe Jonas, big singer of the Jonas Brothers. Married. They have 2 kids. They break up. Messy legal drama where Sophie Turner wants the kids to be in England. He wants them to be in America. She sues him to force the return of their kids. It's a movie waiting to happen. Sophie Turner can play herself. Nick Jonas can play Joe Jonas, and it's going to happen 2026. All right.
All right. Great job. I'll give you a win. All right. Next question. Jack Gleason, our favorite Game of Thrones actor, has a mustache. Let me show that picture as Dodgy Mo in the new season of Sex Education on Netflix. What do you think about that mustache, Dan?
I think it reads you're on a watch list, and I think that was the intention. Jack Gleason played Joffrey Baratheon in Game of Thrones, hated forever, just legendarily skeevy character, is now playing a skeevy character named Dodgy Mo. What? Yeah, you're wrong. That was not enough.
Keep going. That was a mistake.
He looks great. He looks really creepy, which I think is the intent. Good for him. Getting work, looking like a sex offender. Go on, Jack Gleason. Get your life.
You win that one because the buzzer was just left on. So sorry about that, folks. We'll get that right on the next one, which is Squid Game, The Challenge, where the winner could get 4.56 million in prize money. That's a lot of moolah. Premieres on Netflix on November 22nd. Are you going to join that contest, Dan?
I would so do it. Are you kidding? Because you don't. Okay, so the show itself is weird because Squid Game is about how it's exploiting these poor people in order to just entertain the rich people. But if you don't die and you win $4 million, of course I would play red light, green light, and make little cutout things if I could win $5 million. Of course. So the show's weird, but I would totally do it. Would you do it?
Dan, that was it. You messed up. You went too long, and I just Squid Gamed you. So we're on to the next question there. You tried your best.
Okay,
all right. Okay. Robert Kirkman, creator of such comics as The Walking Dead, wants Invincible to run for 7 to 8 seasons. That sounds a little bit like his last show. Am I right?
It does. Robert Kirkman does not write short stories. The Walking Dead ran for hundreds of comics. Invincible ran for just tons and tons and tons of chapters. There's enough there, and I really like the first season of that show. Really fun, really fleet, really kind of sincere and subversive at the same time. I'd love to watch more. There's a new season coming this year, and I'm down for 8 seasons. It's a great animated superhero show. I recommend you watch it. Yeah.
Kirkman. I honestly would want more than 8 seasons, but let's do this. The new Percy Jackson book came out. It's called Chalice of the Gods.
Yeah, Rick Riordan is a noted YA author. He kind of came of age after the Harry Potter boom. The Percy Jackson series became very, very popular. Kind of a Harry Potter-like story about a kid who finds out he's a god and goes to God camp and gets powers and all this crap. Disney Plus series coming. New book coming. Percy Jackson shared universe. They're trying to make it happen. It could happen. The passion is there. The fans are there. Is the quality there? We'll see very soon when it comes on Disney Plus. Oh, it's exciting. Okay, what's next?
All right. Jamie Lee Curtis wants to play Dr. Kuraha on One Piece, and so does the showrunner.
Okay, so I was hoping Dan Roman will be around for this one because I have not watched One Piece. Dan Roman has. But I liked the Netflix show. I liked it quite a bit. I thought it was really fun and different, and it's enjoyable and goofy in a not cringy way. And Jamie Lee Curtis, Oscar winner Jamie Lee Curtis, Halloween Jamie Lee Curtis, True Lies. Yeah, she wants to be on a silly Netflix show about mutant pirates. I say more power to her. Get more eyes on that. I'd love to see it. Make it happen. Go.
I want to see it as well. Jamie Lee is an icon. Right. On to the next question. We've got Star Wars fans in uproar after Disney renames inappropriate cantina music. Yikes.
Another one I wrote kind of for Daniel because I don't know what I'm talking about here. So okay, apparently the cantina song like that apparently is called in canon jizz music. I'm not trying to be vulgar. That's what it's called. And in a recent book, they have renamed it to like Jots music because Disney thought maybe we shouldn't call it jizz music. And I feel like that is taking away some of the cute little adult Easter eggs in there. So boo. Okay. Finally, what's the last one?
All right, last one. I am a huge fan of this as a Toxic Avenger fan, but here we go. Peter Dinklage dons a yeah, all right. Let's do it.
Because I haven't seen it.
All right,
Richard,
read it.
Peter Dinklage dons a tutu in the Toxic Avenger remake, also starring Frodo, Elijah Wood, and Kevin Bacon. What do you think?
I'm very excited for this. I usually don't get excited for sequels, but I mean, one, you got Peter Dinklage. Two, you've got, I forget the director, but he's done amazing work, and I honestly just can't wait to see a hyper-violent movie about a toxic, radiated Peter Dinklage with a mop fighting villains. Elijah Wood's going to be dressed up like a penguin / a riffraff from a Rocky Horror. And you know what? I wasn't even counting during this whole bit here, so I don't even know if we hit 20 seconds. So I'm just going to hit that buzzer right now. Check out Toxic Avenger. Perfect. I love it. Look at the poster back there. Toxic Avenger number 4. Let's go, Toxie. Yeah, I love this news, everyone.
And then who's the cutout behind you? The guy.
That's Kyle MacLachlan.
Kyle MacLachlan. Okay, cool.
Yes.
Really? Okay, fine. Well, we'll talk about that later. Thanks so much, everybody, for joining us on this very special episode. Thank you, Richard, for being Daniel for a minute. Love that. This is so much fun. You know, we here at WiC are nothing if not adaptable. And we love flying by the seat of our pants, and we have to because, again, Daniel, I think, lives in an underwater tube beneath the Pacific. We do this every week. Sometimes we do it in a way where both of us are around for the entire time. Sometimes we don't. Either way, we all have fun. So join us every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Central Standard Time, 3 p.m. on the East Coast, 1 p.m. in the mountains, noon on the West Coast, and 5 p.m. in Melbourne, where Julie Davies lives. We're also available in podcast form wherever podcasts are available, be it Google Play, iTunes, anywhere else. Thanks so much. Thanks for your comments. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. This is a lot of fun. And we'll see you very soon. Thanks so much, and goodbye.